Alright, hi again guys. I actually just came across another story, and this one really gets under my skin. Um it really makes me angry, um and upset, and it's personal. Um I don't know how else to put it, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, but I do believe that it needs to be covered because unfortunately situations like this happen way too often, and it's not okay. It's really not. Um, in this one, I'm going to be covering the sad death of a 7-year-old autistic child by the name of Casper O'Brien. It just started developing. I'm not sure how many of you may have come across it. But he is from Michigan. Both of his parents are being charged with, let me see here, second degree murder for his passing, along with 3 counts of second degree child abuse because he does have a 5-year-old sister that is also involved. But he ended up passing away at I believe it was November 2nd of last year. And he ended up weighing 255 pounds, and at 7 years old. Me, I'm 36, and I weigh just over 300 pounds. Yes, I'm overweight, and I know that. I'm doing everything I can to drop the weight. And so I can't even imagine a 7-year-old weighing roughly 50 pounds less than me, and I'm 36. My son, who also happens to be 7 and autistic, I'm not looking for sympathy on that, but I'm just bringing this in as perspective for everybody to understand. He is currently he's about the same age as this little boy was, and he's only 70 pounds. So what these parents are thinking on feeding their son pretty much whatever for him to get to that weight, I can't even imagine. I can't. Yes, my son is picky. He is. But not to the extent of being that overweight. He's not. But let's see. Back to this case. Let's see. If they are, let's see. He, at the time they responded to his home, due to the fact that his parents called and he was not breathing. So they called the paramedics, said, our son is not breathing. We need help. This is our address. Send somebody. He was taken to Hurley Medical Center shortly after the paramedics arrived. And according to the autopsy, the cause of death was dilated cardiomyopathy, which is, for those that don't know, it is a disease of the heart muscle that can lead to heart failure. And it is also listed with morbid obesity being a contributing factor, which, with that being a contributing factor, I'm not really surprised considering his weight. And in my opinion, the parents failed him massively. And because like I said, this just happened, and they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. No matter what the evidence shows, they are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. If convicted, each parent does face up to life in prison under the Michigan law. So according to the charging documents and the prosecution, Casper, the little boy, he was not provided with medical care or adequate nutrition. He was forced to live in unhealthy conditions leading up to his death. When the police arrived, they found the situation of the home kind of like a hoarder situation. So obviously the parents were suffering from some sort of mental health, because I know that hoarding can be considered that. I'm not saying that that's an excuse. I'm just trying to get context. And I guess there was hoarding, not able to move around very much. And he didn't have a primary pediatrician. He's since, from what I've seen, he's only seen the doctor once over the last couple of years leading up to his passing. That's even with from what I've seen and read, the parents had really good health insurance. And I'm sorry, if you have health insurance, your kids need to get into the doctor. They need to have at least one per year wellness check, depending on the age, of course. Because everybody who has kids or knows a little bit, you may have to see them a little bit more often depending on the age and everything. And of course, if they get sick. And according to reports, like I said, he had a 5-year-old little sister. She was also morbidly obese, and was found dirty with knots in her hair. And when the police arrived, she was also unclothed in the streets. And that's not okay. Neither kid was in school. Because they weren't in school, they were able to go unnoticed by CPS, which, depending on your state, is kind of like Child Protective Services, or DCFS, which is the Department of Children and Family Services. It does depend on the state on what it's actually called, but it's usually either DCFS or CPS. So at the time of Casper's last appointment, which from what I've seen was February 12th of 2024. So that was 2 years ago, and that was about a year and a half before his passing. At that time, that would have made him 6, I believe, 5 or 6. And at that time, he was 4'2", 104 pounds, which is still, even though he was tall for his age, he was still a little overweight. So between February of 2024 and his passing in November of 2025, he gained 150 pounds. That's a lot for anybody, let alone a child. And for those of us that have a child that has difficulties, you could say, whether it's autism, ADHD, anything like that, yes, they're gonna be picky depending on depending on them, but not to the point where they're weighing almost as much, if not more, than a grown adult. And this needs to be brought to the attention of everybody, because this is not okay. If for whatever reason you cannot take care of your child, whatever the reason is, I'm not here to judge. I'm not, because no parent is perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I am, and I never will be. But if it gets to this point, you need to seek help. Yes, I know that it is easier said than done. I know that. But if you're preventing your child from going to school and even possibly getting help, even if it's just going to the primary doctor, if you're not doing that, then you're failing them as a parent. I'm sorry, but you are. I'm not perfect. I am far from perfect. I know that. And I accept that. But I would never let my child get to that point. But it's to each their own. Like I said, this is a very touchy subject. And they are actually being held without bond. And their next the next time that they're supposed to be in court is going to be this Thursday, July 2nd. I didn't exactly see a time, but I will be keeping my eyes glued to this and keeping you guys updated, because I know not everybody follows stuff like this. But this just breaks my heart, because no child should have had to live like that. And it's sad. I hope that his sister, and I believe her name was Ileana, I hope that his sister is able to get the help that she needs. I hope that all the information comes to light. I hope that consequences are dealt, whether it's them facing life or them getting life in prison, which I do believe that they should get based on what I've seen. Granted, I'm sure that there's more to it that could possibly turn it around, but based on what I've seen, they need to be in prison for the rest of their life. They do. But hopefully things come to light and that they ultimately face the consequences of their actions and that they get the help that they need. I just hope that everything works out. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Leave me any comments that you guys might think. Do some research. And if you guys find anything, let me know. I will keep my eyes glued to this, keep you guys posted. So yeah, thank you. Have a great day, you guys.